Hebrews is Wednesday night. We're in 1 Samuel. Yeah.
Welcome to the program.
And I'm sure when Shannon gets here, he'll want her to go upstairs. So feel free to slip out.
I fire it back.
We need somebody on there who knows what they're doing, because I never get to go up there, so it's really hard for me. Sometimes I'm flubbing it up.
You?
All right, so last week we left off with where Samuel had died, and it's going to be 4 years after Samuel dies before he becomes king. And so, you know, I'm always trying to make correlations and you know, how somebody relates to Jesus or relates to Israel or relates to Satan or relates to, because they're all pictures of something or somebody. And just think about how David was persecuted. And who else was persecuted? Jesus. And so he was just like Christ, you know, being persecuted. And really, David is going to, you know, dedicate his life to the people, just like Christ did. And he's soon to become king, just like Christ he is our king, but he's going to rule and reign from the earth soon. So anyway, so let's look at 1 Samuel 25, verse, well, I put verse 2, but I put down verse 1. So let's just start at 25, verse 1. 1 Samuel 25, verse 1. Let's see. Hang on. And Samuel died, and all the Israelites were gathered together and lamented him and buried him in his house at Rahab. And David arose and went down to the wilderness of Paran. All right, so it's believed that Samuel was about 98 years old when he died. And this is going to be probably about 2 years before Saul is going to be killed in battle. And so, again, as we discussed last week, he was the first man to fulfill the office of prophet to the nation. Now, there were prophets, you know, and judges before that, but he literally fulfilled the office of prophet to the whole nation. And he was the last judge. And so, again, there were former judges in Israel, but they weren't united in an office like they were under Samuel. And as far as we know, now I may be wrong, but I really have to look it up. I shouldn't even say this. I don't even know if there were any more prophets and judges while Samuel lived, or he was it. So that'd be an interesting thing to look up. So, and we have to remember that Israel was not united. They were still divided amongst these 12 tribes. And so Samuel really was the first one who brought them together and united them. And so he acted as prophet, judge, war leader, a national leader, and a priest. All right? And again, you know, we've learned that he was not the high priest, but he acted in some aspects that the high priest would have acted under. So under Samuel, Israel was united, and you can see Samuel is a type of Christ, right? Because Jesus fulfilled that office of prophet, priest, and judge. And so Samuel is a type of Christ. So we know that Samuel preached all over Israel, bringing them together, informing them of God and what he said, fulfilling the office of the prophet, and he was constantly telling them to put away sin, and he demonstrated the forgiveness of sin when they did such. And this caused eventually scriptures such as 1 Samuel 7:2, or it says in 1 Samuel 7:2, it says, and it came to pass while the ark abode in Kiriath-Jearim, that the time was long, for it was 20 years, and all the house of Israel lamented over the Lord. Now you remember that's when the Ark of the Covenant was taken by the Philistines. And so they had that ark for 20 years.
Who did?
The Philistines. No, they didn't have it for 20 years. They had it for, yes.
I know
I'm
they
trying
put
to
it-
think.
It was
40
in the
years?
house of that man for 20 years.
Yeah, oh, that was it, that was it.
Yeah, but they
So the
didn't have very
Philistine-
long, right?
No, because they were plagued with
Yes.
things, and so they returned it. And I always kid Teresa that was her favorite story because they made golden hemorrhoids and put them in the oil and returned it anyway because they got hemorrhoids from it. But anyway, yeah, it was 20 years in that man's house.
Yes.
Okay, and so we're just getting a timeline here. And so the whole time, you know, Samuel is preaching to these tribes and preaching them of repentance and everything. All right, so the ark had been returned because it was wreaking havoc in their lives. And you could say, well, I mean, it was judgment. It was the judgment of God on them. And so they returned it to the Israelites. And so 20 of the 40 years of King Solomon reign, the ark resided in that Kirjath-jearim, all right, at that man's house, and I don't remember his name. And all right, so, and then the ark would remain there also 10 years of David's reign. And then David is going to reign 7 years over Judah and 3 years over the whole of Israel. So when David becomes king, he's not king over all of Israel. He's only king over Judah. All right, and then he's going to reign 3 years over all of Israel before the ark is brought back to Jerusalem. And you remember the story when he brings the ark back to Jerusalem and he dances before the Lord and all that kind of stuff. All right, so. But picking back up where we left off a couple of weeks ago, I want to look at 1 Samuel 25:1. And it says, "And Samuel died, and all the Israelites were gathered together and lamented him and buried him in his house at Ramah. And David arose and went down to the wilderness of Paran." All right, so Samuel's died. All the Israelites got together to mourn him, and they buried him in his house. So Samuel, he was really the Moses of his time. All right, and you know, he preached to them repentance, to follow God. And he united those 12 tribes under the one banner of God. But all the time, there was still this evil at work, and it was at work under Saul. And so there's always an evil undertone, is there not? I was listening to Billy Crone this morning on Prophecy Watchers, and he was talking about voodoo is really big, he said, with female singers right now. Satan is the ruler of this world. And why? Did God set it up that way? Absolutely not.